Okay, hi guys. Welcome to the Forex and crypto trading session for today. Just seeing you guys as you come into the room. Just a reminder for these kind of sessions, always great if you guys let me know in the chat box what markets you want me to look at, what timeframes you want me to look at, anything that doesn't make sense or needs explaining. Just let me know as soon as you have any of those thoughts, because then that way I can tailor the session more to what you need as you're watching. Now, if you're watching recorded and you have questions, or if you're watching live and you think about it afterwards, I'm just going to show you different places you can go to get answers. So you've got Becky at tradictive.com, which is my email address there, so you can go to that. There's also a link called tradewithufos.com/Becky. Now, I will show you that in a second, which is another place you can go for lots of help and resources. But firstly, let me just do the legal bit and put the disclaimers up there on the top left-hand side. Please read them, even if you need to pause the video to do that if you're watching recorded. It's always important to know what you can expect from videos like this. Okay, so just again, as people are coming in, a reminder, let me know if you have questions or want me to look at particular markets or timeframes. So let me just quickly take you to tradewithufos.com/Becky, because from here you've got different resources and different support, some of which is free, some of which is paid for. You can have a look, see what is best for you. You've got apps and courses, coaching, one-on-one coaching. If you scroll down here, this is a log of our live trades, and which in this case, my live trades that I place in these kind of sessions. We'll be using it today to fill it in, but you can track these trades and see how they do, and track and see what the notes are, what happened, why did we do certain things, why didn't we? So you can use this place to follow the trades that I'm placing in these sessions, which can be helpful for some people. Now, if you scroll down as well to the bottom of the page, you've got a question and answer section. So you can also use this to go and find answers to questions that other people have already asked, and therefore you might find the question you have has already been asked. Or if you don't find the question that you're looking for an answer to, you can post the question there yourself. Okay, so let's get started and have a look at some different opportunities that we could be looking at. So I start with TradeStation to use the scanner. We use the scanner to help us identify where we might have some good opportunities to look at some trades. Now, that's not to say that the opportunities identified by the scanner are definitely trades that we place. They might not be, but they are at least narrowing down where it is worth our time to look. So we want to look at trades where we have yellow boxes. So you'll notice the yellow boxes say near, and then either sensible or hopeful, long or short. So we want opportunities that are near, that are close to happening. So we want yellow boxes. We also want them to say sensible, not hopeful. We're not hopeful traders, we are sensible traders. So we're looking for that. And what we also want is for this box in this column to be either blue or red, which tells us we have defined probability up or down. So we'll start with the US major pairs. Now, saying that, we don't actually have any here because we've got yellow boxes. This one says hopeful, so we don't want this. These three at the top there, the top two of this section, all say near sensible, but they have grey boxes there. So there's no point, we're not looking at that. So we'll come across to our cross pairs and have a look at these. On a daily chart, the only example that we have here that actually fits is the Aussie New Zealand. It's a near sensible short and it's got a red box there. So that's what we'll look at. So let's now go to Trading View and we will look at the Aussie New Zealand. Okay, I'll use Oanda because similar data to what we get from TradeStation. And we've got a daily on the left-hand side, and I'm going to cycle through different time frames on the right-hand side. The reason for that is because the right-hand side is just for us to be specific about which trades we place, or not which trades we place, sorry, it's for us to be specific about where exactly we're placing those trades, where exactly we're buying and selling. We can use really any time frame on the right hand side as long as it's smaller than the one on the left hand side. The one on the left hand side helps us figure out from a slightly bigger picture, do we have probability up or down, and therefore do we buy or sell? And then specifically where we buy or sell is answered by the smaller time frame, providing things line up. So I'm going to cycle through a few time frames on the right hand side, see if we find a lineup. If we don't, we'll look for a new opportunity. Again, any questions, let me know in the chat box. Any particular time frames or markets you want me to have a look at and explain, happy to do that as well. So for those of you that might be completely new to this, I'm just going to explain very briefly what's going on in front of us. For those of you that have maybe watched these videos many times before, you already know this, so bear with me as I explain. So Aussie, New Zealand, one day on the left-hand side, we have our auto climate app at the bottom. Auto climate tells us where the probabilities lie. We have a thick red dot for today. So that tells us probability down. That's what we're looking for here. So we're looking to sell. Now we want to sell where we have red UFOs on the right-hand side. UFOs show us where buyers and sellers are. So red UFOs show us where sellers are. So if we're going to sell, we want to sell with sellers. So that's what we're looking for. But we also want that to coincide with the EMA price, which is almost exactly at where current price is now. So as we can see, current price is here. There are no red UFOs around. In fact, there are only green UFOs. We have buyers here, which is not helpful on this time frame. So what we'll do is we'll filter through, see if we can find a lineup on a different time frame. Now, this one, unfortunately, very close, but not close enough. The UFO, the sellers here, start at 1.1030. And the EMA is at 1.10289. And I know I'm being perhaps pedantic here, but rules are rules. If we start to bend them for certain scenarios, when do we stop bending them? We might as well have a different rule. So the rule is these things need to coincide. They are currently not coinciding on this time frame, so we don't place the trade. I know that's very strict, but I'd rather be strict in this case than not. Check one other time frame, the 30-minute, and I will check the 2-hour as well. And I'm also going to check the 144. Wait for that to load. Okay, so we could place our trade here on the 144 because we have sellers that start at 1.10229. This number is 1.1028, which means it falls within this UFO. It's within these two lines. So this is the trade that we will be placing. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up my sheet here and let's just put them next to each other so we can fill it in as we go. And I'm just going to draw some lines on here as well so we can cover this out. So this is our first trade of the day. Australian New Zealand dollar. Left hand side is a 1-day chart telling us to go short. Right hand side is a 144-minute chart, which is a Fibonacci time frame, and it's showing us a combination of sellers with the UFO that coincide with the sellers that are coming in at the EMA. Our entry price will be, in this case, we're going to go in at market. Very rarely would we do that, but we are going to go in at market today because the UFO is where price is now. Now we also have our stop loss, which is taken from this number, which is 1.1080. We're going to round that up to 1.1081. We're going to add 5 for some wiggle room, and then we're going to add 2 for the spread. So 1.1088. So that is our area here. Now I'm going to fill it in so that you see live how this works and where you can then go and check it. So today is the 6th of July. Apologies. That's weird for me to do the dates the wrong way around, to do it in the American way, but I'm doing it that way. So July 6th, Australian New Zealand dollar, 1 day, 55-minute. Again, I would suggest you guys do this thing for yourself. Have your own logs that you can track these kind of things in. Our entry is 1.1024. Let me just scoot this across. Our stop loss is 1.1088. The pips difference, we'll figure that out in a second. We'll fill that in. The safety target has already been worked out for us, but again, we'll work it out on TradingView as well. And our final target is going to be using this set of buyers. Why? Because the only thing that can stop sellers is buyers. These are buyers on a big time frame, and so we want to get out before them. So 1.08847. I'm going to round it up because it's a buy order, and then add a couple to the spread. And so that's our final target, which is 1.0887. There we go. So 2.14 to 1. There is our risk to reward. So let's now put this order in. So we're going in at market, which will mean the two halves of the trade might be slightly different, but what it is. Risk, I'm going to put as $50, just as a complete, I say random, in the sense that we want to make sure that we are using the type of risk that we are comfortable with individually. So everyone's going to have a different risk. So I use $60 just to be average on that. So I'm going to just do that here and click sell. When I say average, by the way, that's not to say that I think most people should be risking that or that most people do. What I mean is that I'm giving a random example that's a nice round number that is likely to be somewhere in the region as to what people are risking. So that's the first half of the trade has gone in. Second half of the trade, same thing. We're going to go in at market, same stop loss, same risk. In this case, our profit target is 1.0887. So it's 2.25 in this case because we went in at market at a slightly different price. So what we'll do is we'll update that on our records here. So we went in at, looks there, 1.10268. 10268. Great, so we can see that. And our safety target ended up being 1.0964. That was what we put in there. Our final target stayed the same. Our risk in pips ended up being 62, roughly, was it? I'll update that properly and do the maths on that properly later. So I'm going to ignore this for now as well. I'll fill that in later and you guys can come and check that in. So we've got our first trade on. I'm now going to put a little note. And again, I would suggest you guys do this in your own trades. Placed 6th of July 22, 1 day, 55 minutes. Sorry, 1 day, 1:44 minutes. So we want to keep notes like this and keep drawing on the charts if we can, in my opinion, because then it's easy for us to check. It's easy for us to see what actually happened. Did we just hit our safety target and then it stopped us out? Did we just hit our stop loss? Much easier to see if it's all there to see on the chart. We've got a little note so we don't forget, we don't get confused, we know what time frames we're meant to be looking at, and we keep a record as well. Now, just to show you, I've just gone and edited all of this, and I will go ahead and have a look at it later and just line it all up properly so that I don't use our time in this session just making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. I will do that afterwards. Once I've updated it, you will see if you go to tradewithufos.com/Becky and refresh it, you will see that that's now appeared. So you can now see this trade and you can change it if you want to. It won't change the master copy. In fact, if I do that, it says any changes made to this published spreadsheet will not be saved to the original file. So you can use this and you can download it if you want to, edit it yourself, download it so you can use it as a template, and you can come across and you can check these things as I fill them in. I will also put snapshots links in here as well, so you can see the snapshot at the end of the trade. So you can use this area, tradewithufos.com/Becky, to follow the trades that we place in these sessions. So I'd recommend that you go and do that just to keep on top of them. So you can see from a learning perspective, what's happening here? What are we doing? Why would we cancel a trade, for example? Why would we break even? Why would we lose? Why would we win? Why would we manage our trades? And you can follow it all on here. Okay, so we've placed our first trade of the day, which came from here, which was the Aussie New Zealand. I'm just checking on the chat box there if anyone has particular markets you want me to look at or any timeframes you want me to look at. We can also look at cryptocurrencies in these sessions as well. So if you have any requests, just place them in the chat box and I will divert and go and have a look there. Otherwise, I'll keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, let's stick to our scans and follow them. So we have a pound Swiss here on a 240-minute chart. We can see a hi there from Milad. So hi, just to say hi back there from the chat box. So pound Swiss on a 240-minute. Before we do that, Milad, thank you for your suggestion. So we're looking at gold versus the US dollar. Let's have a quick look here. So it's AU, USD. This must have been from ages ago, so let's remove that and start again. Okay, what time frames would you like me to look at there, Milad? Specifically to guide on timeframes, the one on the left-hand side shows you what your style of trader would be. Meaning if you've got a daily chart here, you expect your trades to last a few days, maybe to a few weeks. If you've got a 1 hour chart here, then you expect your trades to last a few hours. On the right-hand side, like I said, that's just to be specific. So if you've told me 30 minutes, is that for the right-hand side or for the left-hand side, Milad? Right, brilliant. And what would you like on the left? Is it 1 day okay? Or do you want a smaller time frame on the left? That's okay. All right, we'll keep the daily. Okay, so having a look here, and apologies that this this is the way it is. It's just the way the market is. So we have a thick red dot on our daily chart here with gold, telling us probability is down. Now that means we would be looking to sell, and we would be looking to sell where we have UFOs, red UFOs, coinciding with the EMA, which we do. These UFOs are all overlapping, so we could put all of those together. The only issue here, I would say, and we will go and put this on, but I'll just put a caveat with it, is that price is reasonably far from here, quite a distance. So as price moves up, if price moves up to get to this area, which is where we would enter into our trade, the EMA will also move. And it may be that the EMA ends up moving outside of this area. If that happens, we would cancel the trade. If by the time price gets there, the EMA is still between these two numbers, then great, we'll keep it as it is. So hopefully that makes sense there, but we will place this, but just as a caveat, to watch it as it approaches and see whether or not the EMA on the left-hand side is still coinciding. So because we've got loads of UFOs here back to back, all on top of each other, there's no point getting out of a sell trade in amongst more sellers. So we want to make sure our stop loss is outside of those sellers, giving us more wiggle room, essentially, just in case. We don't want to be stopped out if we're right. That's a horrible place to be. So our entry is going to come from this bottom number here. So 1796.41. And we will keep that as it is. There's nothing to do with that. Our stop loss is going to come from the top number. So the highest area that we find sellers, essentially, is what this number is showing us. 1812.105. We're going to round that up. Then we're going to add 5 for wiggle room, or for wiggle room, and then 2 for the spread. And so that is our area with our sell order at 1796.41 and our stop loss at 1812.18. Our final target is going to be down here with these buyers, which are at 1745.53. Just going to round that up, then add a couple for the spread. So that's going to be our final target. Our safety target will be figured out by our spreadsheet and also by TradingView. So let's do this together. 1796.41 is the entry. Stop loss 1812.18. We'll have a risk of $50 again, just as an example. But what that tells us, if we copy the same amount of pips either way, is that our safety target is this number. Safety target is always, for us, 1 to 1 away, so that if we're a little bit right, but not fully, price goes a little bit in our favor, but not the whole way, then we break even. Rather than waiting for it to come all the way down here and maybe it gets to here and then goes against us and we lose, we'd rather break even in that scenario, which is why we do it in this way. So that first half of the trade is going in. Second half of the trade, 1796.41. Same stop loss, same risk of $50, or the closest round to that. The second target in this instance, we already figured out there, is 1745.56. And there we go. So I'm going to place a little note. So placed on the 6th of July, 22. It was a 1 day and a 30-minute. Again, I know for some people it might be boring to watch me do this, but for some people it's really helpful to see how we might add trades to our logs and how we do this, what we need to be filling in, what we need to be having. So if you can bear with me, those of you that do find it boring to watch somebody place their trade and then write about it, just give me 2 seconds to finish this up. Okay, so 1 day, 30-minute short. We put the entry price in. We put the stop loss price in. Again, it will figure out some things on this spreadsheet, but I will go and dot the I's and cross the T's later and make sure everything's lining up, because of course different, whether it's Japanese yen or not, or in this case a different market might use different decimal places and things like that. So I'll go and check those things. 1745.56 was our final target, and as this develops I will add more to this. What would have been the profit or loss per lot, what would have been the outcome, snapshots, etc. Again, you go to tradewithufos.com/Becky, refresh the page and you'll see that trade on there. Okay, thank you Milad for that suggestion. So I also saw Dave said pound US dollar. So let's go and have a look at the pound US dollar. So what we'll do here actually, maybe by, no worries Milad, no worries. Maybe those of you that are willing to say in the chat box, do most of you use TradingView, or do you use MetaTrader, or maybe other platforms, other brokers for your Forex trading? Because I know a lot of people use MetaTrader, and I can show you the pound dollar example on MetaTrader if that's more helpful. But let me know which time frame. MetaTrader, brilliant. Okay, let's do it that way. So let's do it on here. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Ray, for that one. CMC from Ray. We'll use MetaTrader in this case, especially since it was Dave's suggestion. So pound US dollar, let's have a look. Dave, what time frames would you like for the pound US dollar? Which on the left and which on the right? Give it a sec to update there properly. 15-minute on the right hand side. Yeah, and what about on the left hand side? 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour. Well, 4 hour, 1 hour, day, 1 hour. Okay, great. So for those that might not follow, or just to kind of explain this a little bit, the smaller the time frame, the shorter term the trade will be. It is not usual that people will be trading with loads of different time frames, because that will mean that you'd have to be a different style of trader all at the same time. So most of the time, you're either going to be using smaller time frames, middly time frames, or longer term time frames, because you're either going to want to be a trader that's in and out quickly, a trader that is in and out within a reasonable amount of time, or a trader that's in and out over a longer period of time based on your own goals and your time and things like this. So those that might follow the trades where we've used a 1 day and a 144 are unlikely to also want to place this trade, which is 1 hour and 15, and vice versa. So just to give that caveat there. So let's just have a look then. So pound US dollar, 1 hour on the left-hand side, we have, if I spread this out a little bit, other way, we have a thick red dot. Probability downwards, meaning we're looking to sell. Now we want to sell at a place where we have UFOs on the right-hand side that coincide with the EMA, which is this, on the left-hand side. So the EMA right now is 1.1927. Let's round that up. 1.1927, which is just below this UFO. So we don't see, for that, let's come back to MetaTrader. So we don't see a UFO on the right-hand side on the 15 minutes that coincides with the EMA on the left-hand side. So what do we do about that? We have a couple of options. We can look at a different market. So we can look at the euro dollar or the Aussie dollar or the New Zealand dollar, or we can change very slightly the timeframes that we're looking at on the right-hand side. Because remember, the left-hand side is the one that's more important, because the left-hand side is what dictates roughly how long your trades are going to be lasting and therefore your style of trader. The right-hand side just needs to be used to be more specific about our entries and stops, and in that case, our safety targets. So let's have a look. I'm going to look either side at the 30-minute and the 5-minute to look at that range and see what we have. So we now do have, again, just to confirm, the EMA is at 1.1926 now. And we have a UFO here, if I spread this out, at 1.19277. Now we'll round that down to 1.1927. Now I know this is 1 pip greater than what the EMA is, but price would need to move up by 5 or 6 pips before it entered, and by that time the EMA is likely to catch up, which it has already, just to show you there. The EMA is now 1.1927, which falls inside this UFO. So what I'm going to do is write this down on my spreadsheet over here so that I can then copy it over on TradingView. I always place the trades on TradingView so that when I show back again what I'm doing, it's all in the same place, but we will get our data and our numbers from MetaTrader. So the pair is pound US dollar. It's a 1 hour and a 30-minute. We're going short. The entry will be 1.1927. I realize price has already come in. So for those of you, if you want to place this trade, if it fits your rules, you can go ahead. Now we will have to combine a few of these together because they're going to overlap. So we'll take this one, which will mean that our stop loss will be 1.2006 plus 5 for wiggle plus 2 for spread. Our final target, let's use what we have here, and this will be our final target, which will be 1.17641, round it up to 65 plus a couple for spread is 67. So we're using these 3 UFOs together as a short position based on the fact that we have a red auto climate here, probability down. We've got our EMA coinciding with these UFOs, so we're going to place that trade. I'm going to go back to TradingView to place this. Ignore whatever TradingView says in terms of data because we've just used data that comes from MetaTrader. So if you are a MetaTrader trader, you don't need to care. In fact, I'll hide it. You don't need to care what's going on Oanda's data because you're not trading with Oanda. So let's do this. So it was 1.1927. Stop loss was 1.2013. There we go. Our final target was 1.1767. Great. So let's place that trade. I also like using TradingView to place the trade because I like that it does the math for me. It's easier. And the more we can do to take away from our human brains and human calculations, the better. The more we can do to be objective and have robots do these things for us, the better, because they're going to do it better than we do. So 1.1841, that's going to be the safety target. So we'll put that half in. Same thing here. Entry, stop loss, same risk. And the final target is 1.1767. Okay. For some reason it cancelled one trade to put the other one in, but of course we know we would have placed both of those trades. So hopefully that was helpful, Dave. I know we didn't use the 15-minute in the end, but we found one where we did have a lineup that wasn't too far away from our ideal entry time frame. We kept the left-hand side time frame where it needed to be, which is an hourly, because that represents who we are as traders, which is in this case a day trader, right? So what is the time? So I think we only have maybe 5-10 minutes or so. No worries, Dave. Is there anybody else that has a particular time frame or market you want to look at? This is also open up to cryptocurrencies as well. So if anybody wants to look at some cryptos, we can do that. If not, I will go back to TradeStation and see if we have any opportunities on TradeStation. So I'll give you guys 15 seconds to let me know. If not, we'll go to TradeStation. Okay, let's get this ready. Okay, I will keep my eye on the chat box for those that might still be typing. So let me know. Otherwise, let's see what we have here. We already looked at the Aussie New Zealand and we placed that trade. Now let's look here. Pound Swiss was the one we were going to look at. What I'm going to suggest, let's look at the Canadian Swiss, because that's a long opportunity. So far, we've gone short today. So let's have a look at a long opportunity there. Canadian Swiss. I've just seen there from Archie, Bitcoin. So let's take a look at that in a second. Let me just load Canadian Swiss. And if we see an opportunity on the first time frame that we look at, then great. If not, then we'll move on and we'll have a look at Bitcoin. So it was the 4-hour time frame we were looking at there on TradeStation. So it would be the 21-minute on the right-hand side, 21-minute on the right-hand side, or again, we can cycle through time frames. But let's have a look. If it coincides with the 21-minute, we'll take it. If not, we won't. So thick blue dot, probability up, an EMA number of 0.7444, which is here. Here is nowhere near here. So not lining up. And again, as we know, we could cycle through time frames here within a range on the right-hand side to find something that lines up. If it lines up, today we'll leave it at this one as we go and look at Bitcoin based on a suggestion. Now, I know there are obviously thousands of different, as with Forex as well, thousands of different brokers we could be using. I'm just going to pick the top one. So in this case, Bitstamp. If you'd like me to look at a specific platform or broker, let me know, or exchange, let me know. If not, I'm just going to use the top one as a pick a random one to show the point. So what time frames, Archie, would you like on Bitcoin? As an aside, just while Archie answers that question, my personal preference with cryptos is that the bigger the time frame, the better. That's not to say that there aren't people that make money day trading cryptos, or there aren't people that make money doing short-term trading on crypto. However, cryptos are especially volatile compared to most other markets. These spreads can be huge, and therefore, if you're looking for small moves, you're more likely to be stopped out. So for me, I much prefer the bigger time frames on cryptos. So for that purpose, I'm going to look at a 1 week on the left, because Archie's just said there are multiple time frames. I'll look at a 1 week on the left, and then we'll look at maybe a 144 through drawings, 144 on the right, and again we can cycle through these time frames on the right. The lowest I would personally ever go on cryptos is a daily on the left, personally. Again, not to say that there aren't people that do well. I'm just a little bit more wary based on the volatility of cryptocurrencies. Okay, so on a weekly chart, we have a thick red dot probability down here with Bitcoin. Our EMA is at 25,208, which is all the way up here. All the way up here, 25,000, which is within this second UFO here, right? So we could place this trade. However, I would say in this case, price is quite away from here, and it would have to move up by 5,000 points to get to our entry, to get to our EMA number. By the time it's moved up 5,000 points, the EMA is going to have moved a little bit, maybe 1,000 points, depending on how quickly it moves will depend on how that happens, which might mean that we end up with a situation where the trade is not overlapping. So what I'm going to do is see if we can have a look at a daily. And like I said, for me, that would be the lowest I'd be wanting to go. I was going to say, let's have a look at a daily and see if we can go for a slightly smaller trade. However, on a daily chart, we have these thin dots. Thin dots on AutoClimate tells us that there's not enough probabilities either way, which means we don't do anything. There's no point trading something where we don't have clear probabilities. So let's have a look then. If we go back to the weekly, let's place this trade, the one that lines up for now, with a caveat that, again, like the other one that we did before, we will need to be checking in on this as it approaches. If it approaches, is this really going to be something that we want to still place? So we might cancel the trade. If by the time price moves up here, the EMA is no longer in there, then we might cancel it. If it's still in there, then we keep the trade on. So our entry will be from this number here. Now with cryptos, I am much more free in the sense of there's a lot of them are obviously priced so high, and they're also quite volatile, and they've also got big spreads. So I'm not as specific to the decimal places here. In fact, if anything, I'm much more, free. I can't think of the word, but the opposite of specific. So here, the bottom of our UFO is 24,888.88. What I'm going to do is do 24,880. So we'll just round that down a little bit. Give ourselves an extra $8 room to get into the trade. Now our stop loss, 26,226.27. I'm going to round that to its closest 100, which is 26,300. When I said round it to its closest, I mean closest to the upside. So again, it gives us a little bit more wiggle room, because we want a bit more wiggle room with cryptos because they're volatile and they've got big spreads. So our final target will be the closest set of buyers, which is down here. And those are between 16,494. So it's 16,494.52, and then obviously down. So again, I'm going to round this up to 16,500. So this is going to be our trade on Bitcoin. And again, just like one of the other trades that we placed earlier, price is a little far away from the entry, which means that ideally what we want to be doing is actually tracking it as it comes in. It's a weekly on the left, so you won't need to track it very much. Check in every couple of days to see what's going on. But you want to be checking it a little bit more often, because there's more, with more room, there's more room for it to go wrong. So placed on the 6th of July 22, it was a 1 week, 1:44 minute. Okay. So that's the first half of the trade. What I'll do is I will go and put this in my spreadsheet later, rather than do it now and take up our time doing it. And then you guys can check in on it later on the live page. Brilliant. There we go. So those two halves of the trade have gone in. I'm just going to put a little line there, which is 23,460. And there we go. So we have now placed, I believe that's our fourth trade of the day. So we had an Aussie New Zealand on daily chart on the left-hand side, a gold US dollar with a daily chart on the left-hand side, a pound US dollar with a 1 hour chart on the left-hand side, and a Bitcoin trade with a weekly chart on the left-hand side. So different markets, different asset classes, different time frames. Again, it's very unlikely that people watching this are going to place all of those trades because the likelihood of them all fitting within your trade plan is low because we have changed variables quite a bit. So if you're going to follow these trades, make sure you follow them or place them only if it fits your style of trader and your trade plan with what you're comfortable with in terms of risk, in terms of probabilities. You might want to add things on top of this, extra indicators or news-based or other fundamental-based ideas. You might want to add in other types of patterns and things like that. Ideally, it's up to you or ultimately, it's up to you as a trader to decide these things. Just because I've placed all of these trades in this session does not mean that one should place all of those trades because they are very different. Different timeframes, different markets. So figure out which ones fit you best based on the style of trader that you want to be and go from there. If anybody ever needs any help or confirmation of things, clarification of things, I'm always available. You can email me, which is becky@tradictive.com. And you can also, if I find it, you can also, if you go to tradewithufos.com/Becky and come to the bottom, these questions that come on here will come through to me anyway. So if you think the question you have might help somebody else, by all means, post it publicly, and then I can respond publicly and other people can learn from it as well. Also from here, you've got the apps if you want them, the platform if you want that, our one that we use can track our trades, which again, you can refresh it and see how they're doing once I've updated it. You can book coaching and courses and things like that if you want to as well. Okay, so I'm only 1 minute past my allotted time, so that went quite well. Thank you guys for chatting with me in the chat box to explain or to ask those questions. Helps me to explain things in ways that's way more relevant to whoever's watching. So thank you for giving me those suggestions and for engaging there. Nice to see you, Ray, as always. And I will see you guys soon on our next session. Happy trading. Bye-bye.